Some of the most irrelevant things on the path of awakening are the most subtle things. And they're not just irrelevant, but they're kind of like these little discrete nuggets that hold us back. And one of those discrete nuggets is clothing ourselves in our spiritual experience. And what that basically means is that every time we have an experience, we interpret it with our mind. So let's think of, let's say that we've seen the beautiful sunset, and what happens after the sunset has taken place, we're looking at the sunset, then we look away and look at a tree or something, like instantaneously after the immediate perception comes to an end, there's an interpretation of the sunset. And that interpretation is like our mind's best representation of what we've experienced, filtered through limitation. So when we say, I've seen a beautiful sunset, that's an expression that comes from the experience that you had, but the interpretation is not the thing you had. But what happens when we have these more spiritual or enlightening experiences is that we mistake our momentary, immediate momentary interpretation of the experience and literally think that that is the experience we're having now. So in other words, we lose track of what is the truth and what is an interpretation of the truth. And then the thing we do is live as though we are experiencing a truth when actually we're experiencing a belief that was created from an interpretation of a genuine experience of truth. So that's the first irrelevant thing that is going to massively discreetly hold you back. The next most discreet, irrelevant thing that's holding you back on this path is not having a clear understanding as to what the goal is, which means that you'll do loads of things that are completely unnecessary. So most people believe that you shouldn't have a goal on this path, as if like having a goal is somehow the irrelevant, distracting thing, but it's actually not. Having a goal and an understanding of the direction you're moving is the most important thing you could have on this path. Because how many times have people just banged their heads against a wall because they don't know what's important? They don't know what to focus their energy on. So the most important thing is to focus your energy on the right things. If you focus your energy on the wrong things, well, technically speaking, you could be doing that for the rest of your life. So one of those things that we need to understand is that happiness is the goal. Now, some people think, no, happiness can't be the goal. Happiness is just a fleeting thing. It's not. Happiness, love, truth, peace are the direct experience of our true nature. The reason we use different words, such as love, truth, peace, wisdom, is because there's different avenues you can take towards your true nature. Not every avenue is going to give you the same flavor of the truth. So sometimes it tastes like love, sometimes it tastes like truth, sometimes it tastes like happiness. But in all experiences of love, truth, peace, happiness is the thing. Happiness is just the complete dissolution of separation. So whenever I use the word happiness, I'm referring to the dissolution of separation. So you could then put in placement of that, the goal is the dissolution of separation. But the English human word that we use for that is just simply happiness. And the reason happiness seems intermittent and temporary is because we have conditions as to what happiness is. So the more we put those conditions on what happiness is, it's almost like we create these variables that say, I'll only dissolve my sense of separation when this thing happens. I'll only dissolve my sense of separation or surrender my separation when that thing happens. So whenever we experience happiness, we're not aware of it, but there's no separation in those moments. Just think right now, whenever you've experienced happiness, have you had a sense of separation? No, you haven't. Now, some people mistake this for, well, there was a sense of separation. I still seen separate objects, but perceiving duality is not what separation is. separation is the belief that everything is separate, not the perception that everything is separate. So you need to distinguish the two. So it's irrelevant now for you to be worrying about duality. That's an irrelevant thing that's holding you back. Be concerned about happiness and see that the next irrelevant thing holding you back is the belief that happiness and the desire for happiness is somehow holding you back. It's not. Your desire for happiness is liberation in action. Think of it like that. The desire for happiness is causeless. Any causeless desire is not a personal desire, and it's not an egoic desire. So think of it like this. An egoic desire has to be predicated around an individual reason to either change, manipulate, or avoid something. But the desire for happiness doesn't have a cause or a reason. We want it, and we don't know why we want it. We could say, well, it feels good, but why does it feel good? Something else could feel good. Why does happiness feel good? So what you find is that we have all of these ideas that are irrelevant, and some ideas that we think are important to avoid, but we shouldn't actually avoid them. So you should engage with the desire for happiness. You know, it was Ramana Maharshi who said, your desire for happiness is valid, it's just invalid to seek to use that desire to find happiness in the world. So you want to actually activate your desire for happiness. You want to say, okay, well, if happiness is my desire, if that's what I actually want, which by the way, you do, whether you realize it in this video or in the next 1,000 more videos that you watch, you realize you can take enlightenment off the pedestal. You can take every other thing off the pedestal. All it matters is to what extent in this moment am I liberated from the belief that I'm a separate individual? You'll find most of your life you operate not in that belief anyway. So most of the time you're not in the belief in separation. The problem is that there's many things throughout the day that bring you into the belief in separation. That is what seems to veil happiness, but happiness is always present. It cannot disappear because happiness is the word for our being. When our being is exposed, right, our true being, when it's not filtered through the belief in separation, it's experienced as peace. It's the nature of our being. It's the nature of ourself. So instead of seeking happiness or truth or liberation or whatever you want to call it in objects, like in certain practices, in certain spiritual experiences, like trying to do things to get a spiritual experience, and then if I get the spiritual experience, then I can be happy. This is all extra nonsense that is irrelevant. You don't need a spiritual experience to be happy. You're already happy. So technically, if you just accepted that right now and lived the implications of that, you would be perfectly fine. You wouldn't have to do anything else. Now, when I say that, you don't do anything else, there's some other stuff to do because you'll have preconditions. Those preconditions will kind of like make you believe the old thing again. And your job is to not believe the old thing again, not fall into the habit, or fall into the habit, but then correct the habit. So you kind of go through like a intelligence correction period, which is what they call the post-awakening sadhana. So if you just did these three things or stopped doing these three things, you'd have a much better quality of life on the spiritual path. The goal you can think of is just contentment and complete acceptance of where you're at. Make that a provisional goal. Then make the ultimate goal unconditional happiness. And what you'll find is that you won't find much difference between being completely content with where you are and having unconditional happiness and recognizing your true nature. Most of these things are just concepts that they're only important if they're important to you. You see what I mean? So they don't really, it's like when someone asked Francis Lucille, do I need to have a teacher? He said, only if a teacher appears. So these concepts are very similar. They're important only if they appear. If they appear and you're interested, then that's the time to follow them. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't subscribed, I'd love if you subscribed. It would help support the channel. And I have a free community. The link is in the description. If you'd like to join, I'd love to see you there. I do meditations every single week. I'll see you soon, guys. Bye.